Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Hello everybody. What this video is going to show, it's going to show a step-by-step of how to take apart an original model of the PlayStation 4. The very first thing you do is you take apart, you slide the top cover off that is shiny, you slide it to the right, and then there will be 4 screws in the back that you want to take off. If there's warranty stickers, you're going to have to go ahead and remove those because there are screws underneath there. You take a Torx 9mm T9 security Torx screwdriver. There is 4 9mm TR9 security Torx screws in the back of this thing. And like I said, 2 of them are underneath the warranty labels. And just know if you remove the warranty labels, it's going to void your warranty with Sony. So if your console is still under warranty, you might not want to take these stickers off. That's just something that is up to you in the end, but you have to think about that before you take them off. Now the security bits are the ones with the hole in the middle of the bits. And because these screws have a little tiny metal, a metal protruding through the middle of the screw, and that's why you need the Torx security bits. And like I said, there are 4 of them back here in the back. And just take your time. Be ever so gently as you're doing this. And then you turn the console. There are some upside down here, and that's what I'm doing now, is I'm removing the ones that are on the bottom. This is like bottom side up. I'm removing those. Also make sure you're in a place where you're not going to be distracted, or where there's not a lot of people running around, because it's delicate work and you don't want to be aggravated. After those screws come off, you pop up the bottom of the PS4, the case. Now it's really not too tricky. Here I'm showing you the bottom of the PS4. And what I'm going to do is, you have to give it enough force where it's going to pop off, but also you don't want to do it, see, just like that. You don't want to do it too hard either, because you don't want to break it. So it's kind of like, I would say probably a 6-7 pound pull force. And then once you're in there, you can see right here's the power supply, and I'm showing you the screws to remove the power supply. Now there are 3 9mm TR9 security Torx screws here on the power supply, and there are also 2 4mm Phillips 1 screws. So you have 3 of the security Torx screws, and then you have 3 of the TR9 security Torx screws, and you have 2 regular Phillips head screws. It's no big deal, it's 5 screws. And keep in mind, as you're taking this apart, everybody does it a little different, but you want to put the screws to where you know where they came from, because you're going to be putting this back together. In this situation, I'm taking the motherboard down and out because I'm going to be soldering on a new HDMI port. So this next part is not necessary but I just show you that I have a new HDMI port that I'm opening up, and I kind of show it to the camera. See, and you have to get one if you're replacing the HDMI port. It has to be one that's compatible with the PlayStation 4. You can't just take one off your PS3 or any other device. It has to be the one for the PlayStation 4, in case anybody was wondering. Then I continue to take the screws out of the power supply. And I'm doing this in a way because you'll see in the end, this is the easiest way to get the motherboard out. It's not going to be as hard as you think. So, I believe here is where I get the Phillips screwdriver. And I start taking out the Phillips screws here. And there are 2 of them. And they're on this, like, these screws are long and have a metal tab. You know, so there's no secret of getting them out. But that's what these 2 screws are here. And remember to put them where you know where they are. You know, some people can't remember where the screws are going to go back. So you might want to label them if you're one of those type of people, or the way you lay them out, and the way you put the screws up. And just that's just a tip there. And then this is kind of what was the harder part for me. It wasn't really hard, but you just have to have patience. You kind of have to wiggle the power supply just right, just gingerly kind of. And you don't want to do it too hard. Again, not enough force is bad, too much force is bad. I would say about 5-6 pounds worth of force. Usually it's the left side on these PlayStation 4s that give you a little bit of trouble. I'm using a screwdriver here to barely pry up a little bit on the power supply. You can do that with a spudger or a screwdriver if you need to do so. And see, here I am, got it to pop up. Now be careful when you pull this up, because on the other side that you can't see is a little it's a little connector. See right there, that connector on the right? It's just going to pull up from the motherboard, and you just pull it up, and then the whole power supply comes out. And I set that to the side. Now there are some things down here you want to go ahead and take off while you're in here. You're going to, let's see what I'm doing. I think I'm getting my tweezers out here. Or no, that's my spudger. And yes, you want to pop off the wireless connector. It's on the motherboard, and it just pops right up. And you kind of want to feed it up a little bit to where it comes out of the case. There's also another connector. All these connectors you see right here, there's just one right there and the wireless one. So that'd be the connector and the wireless connector. And you want to make sure those are up and out of the way. Next, you just push down on the optical drive right there that goes to the Blu-ray. You just push down on those 2 tabs and you pull them out. They just come right out, no pressure needed. And then you should be ready with that to flip over the PS4. That's what I'm showing you here. You turn it over. I'm kind of showing you here what it should look like after the power supply is out. Alright, I have turned it over, and now you are ready to take out the Torx screws on the top. And there are only, I think there's like 2 of them up here. And what you do is you remove them Now what I'm doing here, I go ahead and start removing some off the bottom of the chassis. But first, no, you take out the hard drive. Duh. I almost forgot. Remove the hard drive first. That's important. It has your operating system and all your game saves. And put that to the side. Then you take out the two 9mm, the TX9 security bit Torx screws. Now, here's the hardest part of the chassis to take off, because you want to do it just right and you don't want to break it either. So this was a little bit harder than the rest of it to take apart, but the rest of the case has to come off. It's ready for it to come off, and you have to kind of feel around to where you can feel it kind of clip back. But the best place to grab it is at the top right here. And as you can see, I'm kind of assessing, the best place to pull this off at. And as I'm looking around, where's this going to come off at? Is there any way to pull it forward? And then I know that the top right here is the best way for it to pop. If you just start kind of like moving it up and down gently, you can hear the first kind of pop. As it pops off, starts popping off, it'll start separating. You see, just like this. Now you want to be careful as you're doing this too. Remember, not too much force. And, as I'm looking around, I'm thinking, is there any other way it slides? No, it just pops right off. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm applying a little more pressure to get it to pop off. And it's popping off, and then boom, it comes right off. Good job. So I lay the last piece to the PlayStation 4 to the side, and then there are more 9mm. You can see that there's dirt right there in this machine and debris, which has affected the ventilation and the heat, the way it disperses from the console. So in other words, it's been overheating. Now what I'm doing is I have a toothbrush that I don't use, and I'm going to brush off the PlayStation 4 just a little bit. This isn't my full cleaning. This is just enough to strip it down, because there's dust and dirt everywhere all over this, and I just want to get a little bit of this dirt off of here. You never know what you're going to see when you open one of these. You could see cat hair, liquid that's been spilled. It's just a big guess. Anyways, I'm showing you here now. It's time to remove the Torx screws, and there's 12 of them, and it's the same 9mm TR9 security Torx screws. I also have a set of tweezers if I need them. First thing you do, there's a little cable right there where my fingers are, and you want to disconnect that. It should just pull straight up, but you want to be careful doing it, because that is to the fan that cools the CPU and GPU. So you just unhook that, and that's all you need to do there. And then you're going to be ready to unscrew those 12 9mm TR9 security Torx screws. So let's go ahead and start removing those. And remember, there's 12 of these things. And also, while you're doing this, remember just to keep your patience. Because when you're doing a job like this, you have to have patience, and make sure you're in a place that no one is going to aggravate you or bother you. Just get in your zone and know that you can do this. Believe in yourself. And then that's my advice there, because it's really not all that hard. It's not rocket science, I promise. Anyways, keep taking out these these TR9 security Torx screws. And what I was saying about security Torx, those are the bits that have the hole in the middle. If you don't have any, you can pick them up just about anywhere. I bought a pair, I think I was in a hurry, and I think I actually bought my set of security Torx bits at like O'Reilly's Auto Center. And they weren't that bad. I think for like a set of 50 they were like $10, but they've come in pretty handy over the time. So make sure you have that. Another thing to make sure that you need is once this motherboard comes out, it's going to take off the right here you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver to take off I call it a retention bracket. What that does, it holds your processor and your GPU. It holds it onto the metal chassis there. So what you're going to need once you get to the motherboard, you're going to need to clean the old thermal grease off, and you're going to have to re-put thermal grease on there. And what I recommend is thermal Arctic silver, but I mean any will do. And when you go to put it back on, don't get real messy. You don't need a whole lot. You know, you just need enough to cover the surface area, just a little bit to the rise of it, because its job is to touch the top of that processor to the metal to disperse heat. Its job is to make that connection. So you don't need a whole big like goop and overdo it like some people do. Trying to think of anything else I can tell you. But I believe I've told you everything. After the 12 screws are off, you just lift up the top metal part of the chassis, and that exposes the motherboard. Now, you can see that the motherboard is kind of dirty and dusty here, and I'm going to have to clean this up with my brushes and things, and I'm going to use 91% rubbing alcohol. There's many different things you can use, but that is what I use. And the motherboard should just lift right out here. I mean, we're almost done with this project of taking the motherboard out. See, it just comes right out, because anything that was connected to it is already disconnected from when we disconnected those cables from the other side. You want to be careful with the pads that are on those risers. See, look how dirty that fan is right there. You know, I'm going to be cleaning that out too. But you want to make sure that those little pads, that you don't lose them. They cool the memory chipsets and such. And then, ladies and gentlemen, that's really it. The motherboard is out now. And whatever is wrong with the motherboard, you're ready to work on it. And you're ready for the next step. And it's just that easy. So, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you need any more help, just leave a comment, and I'll be glad to help.